bring the Martian back to Earth?
No, we're going to keep it up here. We're going to study it. We're safe.
For billions of years, Mars has been extinct. But somehow, this creature has survived.
What caused the extinction?
To me, Derry is the scientific core of the film. You help, bring this knowledge of the alien and the specimen, and you help deduce things about it that prove vital to the crew later in the film. And so I wanted to ask you, what was the research and prep like for taking this role? Because you really are the scientific voice in the room.
We worked with a guy called Adam Rutherford, who was a microbiologist himself and wrote many books on microbiology. And I would meet him every day and discuss a lot of things about cell formation and we'd have debates about life and what we would do, and if we did find a cell, how would you react to it? And he gave me a microscope and he said, go off and look at them and get excited by looking at cells. And by the end of it, I was drawing them, and I was really completely. I got into this kind of this cell art. Where you draw and you paint them, they're all different colours, and you put dyes and stuff, and I was really excited by that.
Nobody can do yours except you. We don't know what it is. And you're in there and you're playing around with it like it's your buddy. I'm your buddy.
I did a lot of research. On, he's a paraplegic, so I did a lot of research on, I was in a wheelchair for 2 weeks. Did that. Then we went to trauma wards, saw things there, spoke to a lot of people. Well, I wanted to understand it on 3 different levels.
You had really complex characters. Is that kind of what drew you to the film, or did you also have an interest in either sci-fi or science?
What really drew, the writing. Retin Paul did an amazing job with kind of allowing it to jump off the page. And then working with Daniel, I'd seen his work before, and I was desperate. Once I met him, was so desperate to work with him. It was also because I was playing a character that was based on intelligence, and it wasn't based on his social history or his social background, or where he, I could have been any sex, it could have been any colour, it was just about being the best of the best. And it made me think, this is what our future is.
Definitely the reality in the space community, 100%. I think one of the other things I really enjoyed about Derry is you show an excitement about what you found, and there's an affection for what you found. Was that another role or part of the role that you really enjoyed exploring?
That was something I explored a lot. But you could play it so many different ways. I could have played it quite cold as just a scientist. And I don't have children myself, and I thought, well, if someone said to me, I'm pregnant. Let's go see the first scan, and I'll be like, okay, and that's how I kind of imagined what it would be like seeing. So I just became very paternal from beginning to end. And more and more, the more I got into it, I was like, I'm going to just roll with this feeling of being connected to this as if it was my own.
And was that hard for you to channel? What was the physical setup like?
It was hard for me to channel because it was my little secret that I didn't tell anyone else. We weren't allowed to explain to people what our motivations were. Daniel wanted us to all have it separately, and each one of us had a different thing. And what was really great, that's how we also reacted to Daniel. As a director, he was our Calvin to a certain extent, but for each one of us it was different. So I'm a gossip. I'm like, I got to tell everybody, but I didn't tell anyone until the end of the film.
Well, I'll keep a secret too. I really appreciate your time.
Don't tell anyone. You.
No, you're not going in there. Damn it! What are we gonna do? There's a bear there! Why call us out the way? And you're quarantined.
First, I want to know what interested you in this movie. Are you a big person with an interest in NASA and all of our current space happenings, or do you have kind of a passion for sci-fi?
I wish I was a microbiologist astronaut with literally a hand in NASA, but no, I'm not. I like science fiction films. I love science fiction films. At the same time, I'm a little bit of a novice. I read the script that Retin Paul wrote and found it quite terrifying, and the idea of throwing myself into it, even though I love throwing myself over edges, I thought, how can we make this one different? How is this not going to turn out to a regular sci-fi film? And I think it was 10 minutes into a conversation with Danielle, and I thought, this man's brain is unstoppable. I just need him to direct me. I need to see where he can take me.
Well, I want to ask about your character first. Dr. North strikes me as a Spock type, if you're thinking through sci-fi archetypes, someone who's very logical, as opposed to maybe Derry, who shows an affection for the monster. Can you talk a little bit about what that relationship was like, and whether you enjoyed it, or maybe you would want to play a role where you were more affectionate towards the monster?
No, I think there was a lovely, and I think all of our different relationships to this thing is so important for the realism of the film. I think that my character's voice of reason, I mean, her job is to come in, and she's the CDC, Centre for Disease Control, and she needs to put up all the barricades. She needs to protect us from potentially any danger, but she also needs to protect it from us. And I think that in one hand, and in the other hand, she loves science. There's a beautiful moment I remember in the film where, because we're not working with a creature when we're seeing Calvin, so when we shoot, we are looking at nothing. We only have our imagination, and whatever is my fear might be different to you. But there's a moment where Hugh looks at him, and there's a very parental, beautiful meeting between them, and my character can relive that beauty through him.
I want to talk about the ending a little bit, because that was, I think, for me...
Do you?
Spoilers are allowed, but it shocked me, and I'm wondering, since you make it to the end, one of the few people who does, what your reaction to that was. Was that something that really attracted you to the film as well?
I think they've done a brilliant way of generating different emotions and ways of this script. I had no idea from one page to the other where they were taking it. Whether or not I survive or not, whether or not I wouldn't have. I mean, I didn't care. I was so intrigued with the story. I was so fascinated how they could keep me reading with such suspense and interest. I think that the end is better for it. It's not an obvious choice. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And terrifying.
Yeah, does it make you scared if we find extraterrestrial life, or do you still hope NASA can come across it at some point?
I think the research that we do is incredible, and that we have the possibility and the technology and the fiercely intelligent people to be able to do it is beyond words. I sometimes wonder, how far are we supposed to go to be in the name of science? Are there things that should be unknown? And it doesn't terrify me, the idea of finding something. I think we're only scratching the surface of vast emptiness, but I do believe that there's something out there, and if we find it, I hope we're curious and respectful and don't try and take ownership over it.
What is going on?